Welcome to the Gerontological Society of America's Momentum Discussion, where we explore groundbreaking topics in the field of aging.
Welcome to this GSA Momentum Discussion Podcast episode titled Living Well with Dementia, the third in a series of 3 podcast episodes developed by the Gerontological Society of America, or GSA, in collaboration with the National Council of Dementia Minds, the first national 501c3 organization founded and governed by people living with dementia. We're grateful to Eisai, Genentech, Lilly, and Otsuka for their support of the GSA Care Toolkit for Brain Health in this 3-part podcast series. My name is Jen Pettis, and I'm the Director of Strategic Alliances at GSA, and I'm pleased to serve as the host for today's Momentum discussion. Today's conversation focuses on a powerful and hopeful topic, what it truly means to live well with dementia, to find purpose, stay engaged, and build a life that's meaningful and connected after diagnosis. Joining me are 3 remarkable individuals who do exactly that. Jay Reinstein, a former assistant city manager, was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's and spends his time as an advocate in doing everything possible to reduce the stigma of the disease. Chris-Ann Lutz-Moss, a former nurse with an amazing career, retired at 59 from Genentech due to Lewy body disease. Chris-Ann enjoys volunteering as a Lewy buddy with the Lewy Body Dementia Association. Through the National Council of Dementia Minds, Chris-Ann enjoys educating and advocating for Lewy body dementia awareness and treatments. And Scott Guernsey retired after 40 years of working in the manufacturing sector and ended his career consulting for human resources. Scott was diagnosed with vascular dementia after a stroke in 2011 impacted his memory. He now advocates to give dementia the recognition to be more normalized. Jay, Chris-Ann, and Scott, welcome, and thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks. Welcome to everybody.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here. Jay, I'd like to start with you. What does living well with dementia mean to you?
I think the thing that jumps out at me first is staying socially connected with friends and family and support groups like the Brotherhood of Dementia Minds. It's also about purpose. And I know when I was working as an assistant city manager, I loved being a public servant. And when I had to retire, I felt that it was a huge void in my life. So I needed to fill the void. And that purpose has now been advocating for others living with dementia. I enjoy doing lunches with friends and going to the movies, documentaries with my wife. I've taken a ceramics class. I go to sporting events. To me, that's living well. And then helping others stay involved. I've met a bunch of people along this journey, and I think a lot of people have been very isolated, and I tried to help them out a little bit and just give them hope. And then I think finally, the big one is using some of those strategies where I have issues with short-term memory and retention. Now I have lists. I do voice emails. I have calendars. I have Post-it notes. And that sort of, to me, in a nutshell, is living well with its Alzheimer's. It's not a death sentence. I can still be productive.
Thank you. Chris-Ann, you're a fellow nurse, just like me. And so with your personal journey and professional experiences, you're likely to have unique perspectives around the importance of routines and habits. And so what daily routines or habits have helped you to continue to live well with dementia?
I don't know how I could manage without technology. With Lewy body dementia, going out into crowds and bright lights and Jay, I'm envious that you go to sports and movies and what have you. I have to be the right mindset to be able to do that. So technology is really important to me in that I set alarms and reminders that help me to remember to get ready for bed, to take my medications, to exercise, to everything I'm supposed to do in life. And I find that routines are important. And without something to remind me, I can't get them done. And I think probably one of the most important things to living well with in general is getting good sleep. And that can be very difficult. Lewy body dementia or Lewy body diseases bring with that REM sleep behavior disorder. So while everybody else is paralyzed during sleep, I'm punching and kicking and having full conversations. I used to do a lot of teaching and lecturing. And I have been told that I'm doing quite a bit of that during my sleep. It's a lot of fun. So it's hard to get good sleep. I may be in bed 10 to 12 hours in order to get 7.5 hours of sleep. I really use a lot of technology to help me get to sleep, to help me manage through my days.
And Scott, how have you had to adapt or change any hobbies or things that you enjoy to continue to live well with dementia?
I've had to adjust a lot of the exercise activities that I'm involved in because I've been pretty athletic throughout my life, and I really enjoy that. I've changed a lot of the things that I'm doing to adjust. I used to ride my bike all the time. I'll spend a lot of time there. I'd be on the bike a lot. I ended up with some issues with balance. So my balance issues were taking over, and I was becoming a safety issue because I didn't want to just fall over in the middle of the street. So I've adapted. I've got an exercise bike that I have downstairs, and I can ride that on a regular basis. I play a lot of golf. Golf's, I don't know if you'd call it relaxing because it's not relaxing, but it's fun. Again, I still play golf. However, I don't keep score anymore. And I bring a half a dozen or a dozen golf balls with me because I'm always hitting them in the lake. But I enjoy it. I laugh a lot. I get a lot out of it. I love being out there in the grass, the green grass, and the putting strokes and all that stuff. So it's a love. The last thing is I swim a lot. I do a lap swimming. I swim for exercise. It's good for your breathing. It's good for balance. It's a full body exercise, and there's not a lot of, it's easy on your joints, and I can get a really good workout and work my breath, work my heart. And I just wanted to mention, I did have to do some adjustment for that. I've gone through and talked to the lifeguards and told them that I've got a dementia issue and that they ought to keep maybe an extra eye on me in case I start sinking to the bottom. But again, I have to do this stuff with some care. However, I do enjoy doing it as often as I can.
If I could just say one thing, I am very envious of you, Scott, because I have had a great deal of trouble since I've been diagnosed getting motivated and staying on track. I live very close to in my subdivision here, we have all the exercise equipment in the world. I'm not walking. I'm not doing light weights, and I just get depressed. So I need that extra motivation because everything I read and hear, exercise is such a big part of living with this disease, and just that healthy mind, healthy body. I'm not doing it. Thank you for reminding me that it's an important part of your life. It needs to be an important part of my life.
Hey, Jay, get a buddy.
I know. I have friends that push me and I make excuses. No one has better excuses than I do, Scott.
I don't know about that, Jay. I can come up with some good ones, So
I think Scott's discussion to get a buddy is a good segue into our next question, which is for you, Jay. What's the role of peer support, other people living with dementia? What role do they play in helping you live fully and meaningfully?
I think probably the thing that just jumps out at me is the importance of the support groups. I'm in 3 right now. I'm in the Brotherhood of Dementia Minds, and I'm at 2 with Duke University. And being around people that are going through similar issues it makes you feel like you're not alone. And we can also have those honest conversations that we might not be able to have in front of other people that might not understand what we're going through. So peer support is huge. There are a lot of people out there, and I feel like I'm very fortunate that a lot of people along this journey that I've met are very isolated. They're home. They don't do anything. So giving someone a call, getting them involved in support groups is really huge. The support group I look at it as like safe space where honestly, I'll talk to my wife about a lot of things and my daughter, but there's some things that I just would rather just talk with the guys about, and I'm just more comfortable. And I think that's a good thing. And it also leads to friendship. And it's that bond, that friendship we have. And I got to tell you, I wouldn't have had that without this diagnosis. So I want people to look at me, not Jay with Alzheimer's, but hey, with this diagnosis, I can't do everything I used to do, but I can still do a lot of stuff. And these friendships are huge.
Chris-Ann, how about care partners and families? How can they best support someone to live well with dementia?
Meet me where I am. And I know that's a big ask for those around me, but follow my lead, if you will. I think that's one of the most important things. I think about my daughter, whom I live with, and how she is. I couldn't ask for a better care partner. She's very patient. She's very kind. Her and I can have a conversation about difficult things. And I'll give you an example. Her and I had chatted, and she said, Mom, how best can I approach you? And when do you want me to approach you? I said, if I leave the cupboard door open or something that way, let's just let it go, if you don't mind. She goes, yeah. But if it has anything to do with safety, then I want you to talk to me about it. I won't cook unless she's home. And I was scrambling eggs, and I turned off the burner, did everything right, but I evidently didn't get the gas all the way up. So she'd come in and the house was full of gas. And so pretty soon, and I had gone, if I went outside to do something, I came back in and she goes, Mom, can I chat with you? And we just discussed it. And I said, oh my gosh, the last thing I want to do is blow the house up. So I think being able to approach us with kindness and not skirt around those difficult issues is really important.
Scott, let's turn to another topic. I think that leads some pain in all of our eyes, and that's stigma and how stigma often gets in the way of living well with dementia. What do you think healthcare professionals and the broader public need to understand about what's possible after diagnosis to help break down that stigma?
Jay and Chris, they stole my thunder here. One of the first things I thought about when we talked about this question is that having dementia is not a death sentence. It's you don't necessarily need to listen to comments like, you don't look like you have dementia. And then I ask, what does dementia look like? And they don't know what the heck that is. The one thing that does happen is I do process stuff slower. It takes me longer. It takes me longer to go to the store. I ask people when they're talking to me to speak slower, because a lot of times people are just doing their normal speech patterns, and I hear the first part and I hear the last part and I miss all in the middle. So I've had to ask people, hey, could you slow down, please? I'm trying, again, I don't want to sound like I'm weird, but I like to be able to know what I'm talking to and who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about. And if I don't hear it, if I can't process it, that puts me at a disadvantage. I have to take that extra time in order to make sure the communication systems are working. And I need to tell people that dementia is not contagious, so you're not going to get it from me.
Great. Well, Jay, you've remained active in advocacy and in civic life. And what advice do you have for primary care teams? So thinking about physicians and nurse practitioners and physician associates that work with them. What advice do you have for them about encouraging people to stay involved and connected to their communities?
Yeah, I think you have to remind people that a meaningful life is still possible with a diagnosis. After an Alzheimer's diagnosis, I'm not able to read books anymore. I don't drive. I have problems with short-term memory, but I try to focus on what I can do well and not focus on those issues that I can't. I remember my doctor telling me that don't focus on these things that are stressful for you. focus on what you can do. I've been a big advocate, and there's nothing that brings me more joy than going to the legislature at the local and state and federal levels. And I've gotten to work with our state legislatures on several legislative items that have actually passed. I've been to Congress the last 4 years through the Alzheimer's Association. I actually was selected as the National Advocate of the Year 2 years ago. And it gave me just this lift and this positivity that what we're doing can make a difference. And I think it is just, I don't know, the word I'm looking for is your one voice along with others and talking to legislators can really move the needle. And I found that my getting out there and doing things has made a difference. And I love doing it. And I would just let folks know to get involved, talk with the Alzheimer's Association, talk with other organizations out there to advocate, even if it's on the local level. You don't have to go all the way up to the state and federal level, but it can make a difference. And I think that it's very therapeutic for me because I can really see that we've gotten some legislative items passed on the national level. And it's because of people like me and Scott and Chrisanne that make it happen. So I would just encourage caregivers, caretakers, just to give people that option because it really can make a difference.
Congratulations, Jay, on the success you've had with advocacy. It is so exciting when it works.
It is exciting.
Scott, please do add your
I was just going to say, for me, I need to get the message out to the local groups, local community, local hospitals, local doctors. So I've spent time trying to, sometimes a social setting, people that I know, physicians that I know, caretakers that I know, and I'll just talk about it. I try to bring it up to a more conscious level, and so people can see that I don't have two heads, that I can still talk and have a sense of humor.
Okay, guys, I have to just jump in because when I hear the two of you, I think about how critically important that is for that sense of being us, remaining to be us. So I knew as a very young nurse, I think I was 19, that the greatest responsibility I had was to be the voice of the patient when either they didn't have a voice at the time or they didn't know what to ask for. And that has been my North Star throughout my career, whether it was hands-on nursing or working at one of our sponsors, Genentech, for 20 plus years. And that was my mission. And what I have found through organizations such as National Council of Dementia Minds and Body Dementia Association, whatever, to be able to continue being me with adaptations. So through Dementia Minds, National Council of Dementia Minds, I was able to sit on a committee through the National Academy of Sciences, and now I'm sitting on another one as well. But when it comes to stigma, I've found that even our smartest and our greatest are the experts out there who have contributed the most to learning about neurodegeneration. That bias is there, and we all have it. And so we have those silos to break down. And I think just by our presence being there helps them to understand that. But one of the things points that I bring out more than ever is there is no chronic illness, which this is what neurodegeneration is. It is a chronic illness. There's not one disease that doesn't have better outcomes if not caught early. So early detection absolutely is critically important.
I've heard the messaging from you and your colleagues here and friends on the line is about the support and connection of each other. So how have peer networks and other community organizations contributed to your well-being?
The peer networks go back to my childhood and my great big family and nursing school friends. We've grown up together, and they are my greatest of safe places. I come from a big family. There's 7 children. My mother's passed. My father's still alive at 97. Oh, I can keep going. Aunts and cousins. And you know what? They still struggle. And yet they approach me with love and understanding. They're not afraid of me. And that's a huge network for me. As far as community goes, I still find that my best network is through the different organizations and the people I have met through there. I have some of the dearest friends I will ever have. And I may not see them, I may not talk to them all the time, but the depth of love and understanding is there.
So I want to turn to Scott along that line of clinicians. And we talked about what clinicians, doctors, nurses can do better. How can they better connect people that have dementia with peer networks and community organizations?
I think that part of the response to that and the action item that should be involved here is developing a written list of all the national, state, and local organizations that support dementia, dealing with dementia people, dementia minds, whatever it is, that have that particular list available that you can give to physicians and practitioners that identify those organizations, give contact information, including the name of the thing, their phone number, email address maybe, that they can take and use.
If I could add on to that, Jen,
Sure.
I think it's almost like we need a protocol, so to speak. It took 4 academic centers before I felt like I got to the right place. This disease is difficult. The Lewy body diseases to diagnose. It fluctuates. It's trying to hit a moving target. There's no anger out there. But at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, I was immediately given tools. So pamphlets that I could go to the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center, the Lewy Body Dementia Association site, which was my first start. And from there, I met people that led me to the National Council of Dementia Minds. Have you? But I think that upfront education is critical. And one of the examples I give is I was not having visual hallucinations, which is really very common with Lewy body dementia. So my physician, Dr. Bradley Beauvais, described what it might look like to me so that I wouldn't be afraid and what I should do if it would happen. So the first time I had that, I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't terrified. I'm provided literature every time I go in their books. I'm a part of many of the clinical trials, so I do believe I get a little extra time with education. But through all of that education, I found those networks. And one of the women in my support group at the National Council of Dementia Minds has developed a resource list that you hear. And it's really inclusive. I was impressed.
Yeah. If I could just add one thing too, and it's just really to piggyback on what both of you said, is just really if there was some website or one place you could go to get information and that toolkit for Lewy body, for vascular dementia, where you don't have to go 50 million places, because you got to keep it simple, especially for people that have cognitive issues. And I know for me, I get very frustrated when I don't know where to go. But if you have this clearinghouse or one area for folks to go, and you could get everything there with phone numbers and references and all that stuff, that would make it a lot simpler. Because right now, people are going in a million different places. And, what Chris Ann just said, it can be very frustrating if you have to go to 3 places before you get that final diagnosis. So I just think keep it simple. And that would add a lot of value, especially after you get a diagnosis with all that stress and anxiety.
Jay, Chris-Ann, and Scott, I want to thank you all for sharing your insights, your lived experiences, and your guidance for all of us. You've shown us that living well with dementia is not only possible, it's powerful. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of the GSA Momentum Discussion Podcast. We hope you found this conversation informed and inspired. Thanks again so much, Jay, Chris-Ann, and Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Check out GSA Enrich at geron.org/enrich for engaging learning resources, including toolkits, publications, webinars, podcasts, and more.